Perfect. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the bottom line. I'm your host, Miran Karajian, and tonight is about the Congressional District 32 Candidate Forum. It's not about talking points, it's about accountability and real answers. Let's begin. First, let me welcome each of you to this program. We will now move to candidate opening statement, and each candidate will have 2 minutes. Doug, you can start.
Hello, everybody. My name is Doug Smith. You can learn more than you'd ever care to know about me on DougSmithForCongress.com. I want to thank everybody for being here, Miran, also, but in particular the other candidates. And I already mentioned it to them before we started rolling, but I consider you are all heroes in this endeavor. I think we all need to do whatever we can to get past this dark chapter in our history. I want to thank Brad for his service also, but just say that there are no kings in Congress. Let's leave it at that. We have all chosen to stand up and fight for our democracy, except for Larry, who has automatically disqualified himself for repeating the same thing, expecting different results, for electing the golden grifter, building ballrooms while his country is in ruin, Bozo the Crown. Not just the worst president in American history, the worst person in American history. You have put a convicted felon in the White House, a pedophile protector, sexual abuser, and someone who told his generals to use cities as training grounds, attacking his own country, burning it down to rule over the ashes. Quoting Lewis Carroll, I will say, quote, "When you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there," unquote. I'm a union member, a 42-year union veteran with the Directors Guild, and 3 times elected to the Assistant Director Stage Manager Council in the last 15 years. I'm an advocate and outspoken member for collective bargaining, increasing union membership, as well as a tireless believer in wages, not just keeping up with inflation, but surpassing the cost of living increases to narrow wealth and wage disparities, along with the absolute need to address protections in AI for economic reasons and humanitarian ones. All of this, and including a dire need to address corruption and campaign finance reform, brings me here again. I do want to start with one quote by Ro Khanna, who puts it best. You know why the Democrats keep losing? Because we don't have conviction in our politics. We don't have inspiration and passion in our politics. We get people there for 50 years who read the same scripts, put out the same bland statements. Get out. Let a new generation lead. You've been ineffective. The base doesn't like you. The base wants fighters. The base wants people with moral vision. Thank you. Let's have some fun.
Thank you. Anna, you are next.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you to all the fellow candidates for being here. I know some of us have been on quite a journey together over quite a few months. Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Wilding. Go to wildingforcalifornia.com. I'm a veteran director, producer, senior White House correspondent, business owner, nonprofit founder, and creator of the Celebrate Hope Obama exhibit, which I built as a direct response to hate I witnessed and to show the Obamas in a better, more human light. There is one of my pieces there that went viral. I'm also a union member. I have an accent. I'm a first-generation immigrant. I've lived and worked in this country for 30 years. I know this district and its challenges deeply. Politicians weaponize the word racism to divide us for power. Race hustlers profit from it. Some people use it to feel morally superior. Marina, you jumped into this race late, unknown to most voters, and immediately started calling yourself an immigrant, which you're not. You were born here. Facts matter, and you have since changed your website. I privately messaged another candidate who claimed he had headed the National Security Agency. He didn't. He was only a bureaucrat, hasn't practiced law since 2022, and he has major ties to a lobbying firm. Instead of owning it, he leaked my private text to you in violation of civil code when he found out that I knew about the lobbying firm, and you deliberately misrepresented it as racism. I did exactly what every American has been told to do. See something, say something. Marina, I don't care if you're from Venus or Mars. I raised concerns about Chinese spies before I even knew you were Taiwanese. You deny being one, which is fine, but if you can't handle tough questions or being called one, you're not ready for Congress. It only gets tougher there. I've been called a spy multiple times in my life around the world, and I've laughed it off as a compliment. The stakes in District 32 are sky high, crushing housing costs, film jobs disappearing, transportation failures, crime, homelessness, and toxic sites in our backyard. I bring real world leadership as a business owner, nonprofit founder that led through one of the largest earthquakes per capita in the world at the time, and someone who has served in the White House. I'm endorsed by the American Small Business League and democratic and community clubs and organizations. I have an 11-point plan to rebuild our economy, retain unemployed film and television workers, deliver real housing solutions, strengthen community policing, and protecting our neighborhoods. We need smart growth, not forced growth. We must enforce tenant protections, rebuild our immigration system with pathways to citizenship, get corporations out of single-family homes, fix transportation instead of just studying it, and create really viable new visas. This race is about leadership, accountability, and delivering tangible results, not distractions or personal attacks. Please visit wildingforcalifornia.com. Marina, I'm sorry if you were offended, but my background has heavy Navy and Navy nuclear involvement. We are fully aware of the spies that have infiltrated our country, and I was doing what I was trained to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Marina, it's your turn.
Thank you so much for having me, Mihran, and Jim. This is such a great opportunity. My name is Dr. Marina Lin. I have a doctorate in climate science and a master's in urban regional planning from UCLA. I was born and raised in this district to Taiwanese immigrants, and I came up through the public school system, and I know what it's like to grow up here and live here with the best of its resources and the best of its people. I actually came back to deal with the Porter Ranch gas leak crisis and support my parents through recourse. And looking through my email, Miran, I actually found your name in the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council emails from back then. And it's funny that we kind of would have crossed paths then. But I've been through every phone tree related to Medi-Cal, Medicare, and the ACA marketplace, and I've been successful in dealing with it. And while I was at Harvard, I actually co-founded the first graduate labor union against a multi-million-dollar union busing campaign by billionaire Harvard. And I'm wearing this shirt today because today is the first day of the strike for a lot of the protections that we had fought for when we fought for the union. I support abolishing ICE and immigrant detention. I'm the only candidate in this race who, as an ordinary citizen, won the release of an ICE detainee back in 2019. And I saw how he was significantly disadvantaged in his asylum claim and how it was so inhumane that he was stuck in detention while he had a legitimate claim. And I was the only reason that he was able to actually contact his family after months in detention. I support Medicare for all. I support Green New Deal updated for AI and crypto and the threats posed by them. I oppose weapons transfers to Israel. I oppose our complicity in war crimes. And I oppose continued inflation of this budget for our military abroad to commit these war crimes. I believe that money needs to come back to our district in supporting our constituents. And I was raised by this district. I struggled through and I did my best with what I had at hand. And if it was this hard for me to do this well, I can only imagine how difficult it was for the average person here. I struggle alongside this district. I'm a direct product of this district. And I really hope my neighbors and our constituents consider that in their vote on June 2nd. In regards to anything that Anna referred to, all the primary documents are online, and I oppose any bigotry in any form, and I stand by that. So I believe that's something that as public figures, we need to be accountable to all voters. We need to be transparent about our belief systems and what we're accusing other people of and what our bases are. And for that, public safety is of key concern for me. So I really appreciate you guys having me, and thank you so much.
Josh.
Thank you so much, Miran, and nice to see everybody here. Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. My name is Josh Sauter, and I am the father of two children, two little boys. I live in the district. And I currently serve as the vice president of the Encino Neighborhood Council, where I served as the vice president, as the president last year during the Palisades fires, during which time I participated in helping people to evacuate. I helped to restore services uh, after the fire, after the threat had passed, power, water. I was involved in the conversations with our other elected officials when it came to bringing the National Guard. I was involved in the discussions with how they were deployed and when they left. And and then I was involved in special sanitation pickups for people whose refrigerators had died and they had a whole bunch of food that had to be thrown in the trash. Um, it was during that time that I realized that this was something that I really enjoyed doing, being of service, helping people. I'm running for Congress because I feel that too many people feel like government is not working for them anymore, and they want someone who will work for them and fight for them like I did as president during the fires. The cost of living is crushing families like my own. I first bought my house at 39, which right now is the average for a home buyer. We did that 4 years ago, and I'm not sure that we would be able to afford the house that we bought if we were to be buying in this market today. Childcare for my 1-year-old, just turned one, is nearly $27,000 a year. People are doing everything right and they're still falling behind. At the same time, we're watching a government spend billions of dollars without delivering real results, especially on homelessness, public safety, the mental health crisis, and basic services. I've spent the last few years working on these issues locally, bringing people together, cutting through bureaucracy, and getting things done. In Encino, I've helped to secure over $200 million for improvements and restoration to the Sepulveda Basin by working with local, state, and I wish I could say federal partners, but Brad was not present during that process. That didn't come from Washington, as I said. It came from showing up, doing the work, and fighting for our community. That is what is missing in this district right now. We don't need more Washingtonians parachuting into this district with lots of money. We don't need more talking points. We don't need more politics as usual. What we need is leadership that is present, accountable, and focused on results. I'm running because I believe that the government should work for us. That's why my slogan is very simple. It's Josh Sauter, for us, for a change. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher.
Thank you, Miran. Good to see you, Miran, as always, and everybody here. Josh, Anna, Marina, Dory, Doug. Thank you, Jim, as well. It's good to see everybody here because we're all part of this community. We all have different things that we're passionate about, what we're fighting for, and we're here. Every single one of us is here. We showed up. It's 3 o'clock on a Monday. Some of you have children, maybe they're off spring break, mine are. So these are the challenges that working people deal with every single day. And Brad Sherman has abandoned this district for 31 years. It has been a long time. We all have stories. Every single person who's lived in this district has a story. And what I'm doing and what I'm here for is because public service is important. When you have someone like Brad Sherman who doesn't understand what working people, working families are going through, they are more focused, Brad, on not being here. When they were ready to drop bombs, whether it's Iran, whether it's in Lebanon, they support those things. People here are struggling to put food on their table. The military budget, we have healthcare, Medicare for all is something that I support. We support education. Education, Brad has abandoned education at a federal level, building housing, being here for our community. We all have something that we want to do. And public service is an important calling for a lot of us here. And somebody like Brad Sherman, who's abandoned the district, is not dealing with these issues face forward, hit on. And I don't want to take too much of our time, but I appreciate the opportunity to come here and have a conversation, especially with CityWatchLA. So thank you, Miran and Jim. And at the end of the day, it's us versus the 1%. This is a class war. It's not left, right. It's top, bottom.
Thank you. Dory.
Good afternoon, and thank you to the organizers, the moderators, and everyone here today. My name is Dory Benami, and I'm running for Congress because the people of this district deserve safe streets, clean public spaces, and a government that actually works. I live here, I raise my family here, I drive these streets, walk these neighborhoods, and deal with the same high costs and daily frustrations that you do. This is not theory for me, this is home. And what people want is not complicated. They want sidewalks they can actually use, parks that feel safe, bus stops that are clean and well lit, streets where families, seniors, and kids can move around without feeling stressed or pushed aside. They want neighborhoods that feel cared for. Instead, we keep getting the same failed leadership, more spending, more excuses, more talk, and somehow the basics keep getting worse. The cost of living keeps rising, homelessness spending keeps going up, but the disorder is still there. Families are being asked to pay more and accept less. That is not progress. That is failure. I believe we can have compassion and order at the same time. We can help people get off the streets without surrendering our sidewalks, parks, and our bus stops. We can support legal immigration, and we can still take border enforcement seriously. We can care about clean energy without making life even more expensive for working people. My message is simple: safe streets, strong neighborhoods, public spaces that belong to the public again. That means real results. I'm running because I live here, I care deeply about what happens here, and I'm not interested in protecting a broken system. After 30 years of the same representation, it is time for a new voice and a lot more urgency. I would be honored to earn your vote. Tu vos, mi compromiso.
Thank you all. Now we are going to move to the questions. This is up 1.5 minutes per candidate. And the first topic is related to the cost of living crisis and federal accountability. And the question is, families in this district are being squeezed by rising costs, housing, food, and everyday expenses. What specific federal actions would you take in your first year to lower costs? And what policies would you be willing to change or stop to make that happen? I'm going to start with Josh.
I had a feeling that I was going first. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because lots of people like to talk about the cost of living and they quote the statistics, but I am actually a living statistic of this affordability crisis. I have a 1-year-old son who goes to childcare, which is not free. We pay almost $27,000 a year, and that is pretty much the cheapest option that we could find, the best option. Our housing cost, again, if we were to buy this house now that we bought 4 years ago, we wouldn't be able to afford it. So what would I do differently? I think that what we need above all else is to focus on housing. And there are so many vacant homes in my neighborhood, vacant homes across this country, people who are using these houses either as a second property or as a third property. These houses are going untaxed. Nobody is living in them. They're not being rented out. And that is an enormous problem. I want there to be a federal tax on vacant houses. We can do multiple things at once. We have to make sure that there's also transportation, right? Like, we have to build more everywhere. And one of the things that I want to focus on as well is this idea that I have, which is called Safe Communities and Recovery Plan. And what this is to reduce outdoor homelessness by 40% in the next 4 years. I believe that we can do this through the structure called recovery campuses. I'm actually a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is not something I talk about a lot, although if you've heard me at these debates and candidate forums, you would think that I talk about it all the time, but I truly don't. Okay. And one of the things that we do is that we bring AA meetings to people in hospitals and institutions. And the thing about it is that it always works every single time. So my idea is recovery campuses that are in locations where these encampments are, large scale campuses that focus on homelessness, mental health, job training, and they will work. They will work because they always work, and they will work if they're done the right way. There's a reason why encampments all take place in the same location again and again and again. There's a reason why people do not want to live outside, but they're living outside in California. And it's because, for example, there's a homeless person who I know as the homelessness liaison for the Encino Neighborhood Council. There's a man named Marcello Drago who lives in the park right by where I live, and he's asked me many times to get inside. But when the head of Inside Safe came to help him, he didn't want to go. And there are so many complicated issues involved in that. But the primary reason is that his aunt and his brother own a house 3 houses down from mine. And his dream is that he'll be able to show up one day on Christmas and that they'll invite him inside. I would love for there to be a place nearby where he lives, where he wants to be, where we can put people. People want to live inside with dignity, structure, recovery, and reducing homelessness. And the last part of this is that I think that we could reduce people's property taxes who are living near these facilities. The places will be cleaner, they will be less crime, less pollution, and we give people a tax break so that they buy houses and incentivize people to live near these recovery campuses. Thank you.
Anna, you are next.
Oh, hi. So, well, first of all, we must redirect federal spending so we can lower real costs. I have an 11-point clean energy and manufacturing plan and working with my coalition partner, National Infrastructure Bank, and I'm supporting their bill through Congress. I can make it work within 2 years. It's a $5 trillion bill, and it will bring $600 billion to California. And in particular, I have already negotiated, of course, that a significant part goes to our district. I canvassed a lot of people. Housing is our number one problem. We have to get big corporations out of housing, both family housing and rental housing. We have to hold landlords of rental housing accountable. At the moment, they're just putting up the rent 10%, too much. They're not paying attention to rental control laws. We must make these landlords accountable. We must bring them back to mum and pop operators as well. We must stop waste. Federal programs are mismanaged or captured by large corporations. The American Small Business League. So 23% of federal contracts are supposed to go to small businesses. They're not. They're all going to large businesses. So we've got a huge push on in my campaign and working with the American Small Business League to make sure to educate people that they can start applying for those contracts. And we have to pressure government and Congress as well to make sure and hold them accountable that those federal contracts go to small businesses. We need a large-scale economic strategy. Homeless is a real issue, but I know that was another question that we were being asked, so I'm going to table that for now. Listen, federal spending has to lower costs. We have to have accountability in our neighborhood. We have a toxic site, the Santa Susana Field Laboratory. We have obscene gas fills. We've got a transportation corridor where they're still just doing surveys on. We actually need it to build and work. And one of the first things, if we build that transportation corridor between the east and west, in addition to the 405, is we must have safety codes. At the moment, they're not exploring the proper life safety codes with building such a thing. We've already lost hundreds of millions of dollars in Gavin Newsom's plan to build this railway up and down the coast. We've got to hold these politicians accountable all the way to the California governor, all the way down. And my job in Congress is to make sure I can bring in legislation that allows local, city, and state to do their job without fighting, without bickering, and making sure that everyone is held accountable and that the middleman is held accountable, because at the moment, the middleman isn't being scrutinized and the middleman needs to be scrutinized. Also, Marina, just one quick thing, I'd like to know that the person who you say it's online, it was released in stages, it's distorted, it's false light, out of sync, and the guy who released it, Ed Choi, has been known for doxing women online, as he just did me, which is actually also in violation of civil code, and for doxing federal agents. And I will tell you one thing, is in talking about public safety, it's an extremely dangerous thing to do. As I said, I've had death threats, and 15-year-old girls actually have killed themselves when they're told to kill themselves. And I think it's disgusting that you want to condone that behavior. And one of my platforms is to stop bullying of women online. I'm going to expand the Take It Down Act, because this kind of behavior is reprehensible from men and obviously women who do it for clicks to make money. And I'm not even going to enter into this discussion anymore. What you've done is absolutely disgusting, and don't you dare sit on this stage and pretend you haven't done anything, Marina. It's all over a simple question that you have taken offense to when there are far bigger issues at stake. And I'm not even going to go on to foreign policy, but needless to say, there's major foreign policy that is involved in when I ask any kind of questions. And yes, you're not a spy. That's fine. Congratulations. Well done. But I want to protect the American people, and I want to protect our district. I want to keep it safe. And the first thing is housing.
Thank you. Dory.
Okay, so the cost of living crisis did not just happen on its own. Sacramento and City Hall helped create it. They made housing harder to build, they buried small businesses in red tape, and they let utility costs rise. They spent billions on homelessness without restoring order, and they failed on infrastructure, failed on basic services, and then told families to get used to paying more for less. That is not progress. That is government failure. I believe we need to take a real hard look at a lot of the regulations that are making California fall. We were the fourth largest economy in the world, and now we're the fifth. We pay more than $2 a gallon for gas. Our entertainment industry is in free fall, and a lot of people are very concerned. And the best solution that a lot of people on the far left have is to tax the billionaires. I think we need to take a look at all of the regulations that are being put in place, and we need to reassess and focus just on safety and on fixing affordability issues for the people who live here. Thank you.
Doug.
Hi, thanks. In 2024, I tell this every door I knock on, I tell this to people. In 2024, I ran. I got 80 signatures to get on the ballot, and I was worried that I would even get 80 votes. I got over 2,500 votes under the slogan that I'm still using today to defund politics, taking as much money out of the equation as possible. And that I also think I should distinguish my campaign a little bit so that you know how I'm different from the other candidates. It's important that anyone watching this gets a clear idea of how we differ. I'm not sure at the moment we've distinguished ourselves, but let me just say that, for one, I have not asked for a single penny. Didn't do it in 24, I didn't do it now. No money. Secondly, I'm the only candidate that doesn't belong to a party. I have no party preference. So no money, no party. I am one of the candidates, I'm not sure if anybody else will say it, that does not think there should be, that thinks there should not be anything such as a billionaire. So no money, no party, no billionaires. Almost the most important thing, additionally, is to put a moratorium on AI, the data centers, before we can know whether they are aligned with our best interests, and we can proceed whether there's environmental risks or humanitarian ones. So no money, no party, no billionaires, no AI. Lastly, that something that distinguishes me from others, I'm sure no one else will say we need to a boycott on the World Cup, and that's diplomatically speaking. So none of our elected officials should participate in the World Cup. We cannot put a happy face on the dictatorship and authoritarian transfer of America. We cannot ignore that. And lastly, we need to boycott the Olympics. Again, I'm sure I'm the only one that's saying it, but we have to do that. I think where London and Paris, having had the most recent Olympics, the infrastructure is still there. We can postpone the LA Olympics until 2032. And hopefully at that point, Trump will be long gone or in jail. If I still have some more time, I'm not evading the question here about affordability. That is probably the most important thing to people, even though in 2024 it was homelessness. The consensus among researchers and citizens alike is that affordability is not merely a single economic metric, but the rising price of entry for a middle class life. My 42 years at the Directors Guild as a union member and the last 15 as council member, I have been an active and advocate for our union wages, our fair treatment of people, and making sure that we increase a middle class as opposed to letting the middle class diminish. Thank you.
Thank you. Marina.
Thank you so much, Miran. I have a quick question. Is anyone keeping time? I'm just a little
Yes.
worried about this running
Yes.
over.
I'm keeping
okay.
time.
Okay. Sorry. Affordability is at the top of everyone's mind. And the first thing I would do is repeal the parts of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that cut our ACA, that don't renew our ACA subsidies and that cut our Medi-Cal. I have a friend whose premiums quadrupled, and she had to basically take her kids off insurance to be able to afford insurance, to be able to continue paying her rent. And we're seeing that these costs really fold into each other. I think, as Josh laid out, I mean, childcare is a major issue as well. So all of these kind of come together, and I don't think there's just one single cause. And if we think of it as a box model, really it's job security that we have to worry about the most. So many families are worried about, hey, our homeowners insurance doubled and our health insurance just quadrupled our premiums. So how are we going to be able to actually afford our rent when these costs are on par? So my first act will be to restore the social safety net that is basically getting people insurance that they need it. In our district alone, we have 29% of folks who rely on Medi-Cal. And my cousin, who's my conservatee, is one of those recipients. He has Down syndrome. He's 42 years old. And he is living his best life on an excellent program that gives him the dignity to go to a day program, to get the healthcare that he needs, and to live a fulfilling life as someone with a disability. That needs to be saved. I mean, as a society, we need to protect that. So to me, a major thing is really these healthcare costs need to come down, and it's unconscionable that people get caught up, unable to navigate the healthcare system and get the services they deserve. So another act I would do as a new Congresswoman is to expand our constituent services and actually make sure that people have access to the care and the resources they need that include Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. So this is something that's incredibly important to me in a district that's also almost 1 in 3 foreign-born and almost 1 in 4 Hispanic, where I want my constituent services office to actually be at the minimum bilingual, to be fully Spanish and English. And if you look at Congressman Sherman's site right now, his constituent services request form is still only in English. I checked this morning, so I don't think he changed it since then. But thank you very much. That would be my initial steps for that.
Thank you. Chris?
Imran, can you repeat that question again? Just so I'm clear on the exact question.
So it's about cost of living crisis and federal accountability. And the question is, families in this district are being squeezed by rising costs, housing, and everyday expenses. What specific federal actions would you take in your first year to lower costs? And what policies would you be willing to change or stop to make that happen?
Thank you, Moran.
A simple question.
Thanks, Doug. So
Sorry.
hey, put on mute there, bud.
Go ahead.
So the main thing is, I think, Moran, is the cost of living. Just the fact that people are getting priced out of their houses. We have so many renters in our district. Brad Sherman has abandoned renters. He takes donations from the real estate donors, the large organizations, the large PACs that don't support working people. First thing is, our campaign does not take contributions from those sort of PACs. It's about working people in this neighborhood so they can work here, live here. For our renters, we need a national bill of tenant rights. We also have to increase our supply, lower our costs. And so what we should do, and what I'm going to do, is I'm going to partner with our state officials. There's state legislation that's being passed that allows more housing being built, different types of housing near public transit. We have to support these things. We keep people so they can go to their jobs, they can go live their lives, have dignity. More importantly, it comes down to we have housing, we have grocery prices, we have healthcare. The fact that so many of these grocery stores, we think of multiple grocery stores. It's actually owned by 2 or 3 companies. They own all the grocery stores. So when we have different food items, we have to focus on making sure that those prices are capped. They're gouging people every single day. We talk about gas prices. We can go look right now and see how much gas is. It's almost $10 a gallon. It keeps going up. When you have somebody like Brad Sherman who's supporting unconstitutional wars, where they say we don't have money for childcare, but we have billions of dollars to drop bombs. It's not capitulation for Brad Sherman if he agrees with what Donald Trump is doing. So the cost of living, Josh mentioned it, Marina mentioned it, I think Dory mentioned it, you too, Anna, everybody, we're all fighting for these things. When we're getting priced out because corporate politicians, corporate Democrats like Brad Sherman are only taking those contributions from these large PACs, the large corporate PACs, we get left out. We should not have to go into debt because we have to pay for medical costs. We can look at case studies throughout the world, our allies. I talked to so many Canadians a few days ago in Studio City. We should be able to have single-payer health care. And at the state level, they killed CalCare. That is single-payer health care for Californians. And so, yeah, our grocery prices, our housing, we have to increase supply, we have to lower prices. And that's going to happen when you do that. When you have someone like Brad who's been abandoning our district for 30 years, this is what happens. And this didn't happen overnight. This has been a managed decline because working people, they're not getting heard. We knock on so many doors. We talk to people directly. We've been doing it for 12 months. Every single person in this district, they shouldn't have to live in Bel Air to get some sort of recognition. When the majority of people in the 32nd district don't even know about the Sepulveda Transit Corridor project because they live here and they don't get that outreach. We talk about constituent services, outreach to our communities, Hispanic communities, our Asian communities. Every community deserves to be heard, not somebody who has the largest checkbook that can write a check to Brad Sherman. That is the problem. So for me on day one, it's about focusing on our constituents, working people, making it accessible. We have so many different cultures in our 32nd district that speak multiple languages, whether it's Taiwanese, Vietnamese, Tagalog, Spanish, Hebrew, multiple languages, Farsi, Arabic. This is what's missing from our 32nd district. Brad Sherman has ignored everybody. And so I want to build more housing. I want to have it near transit. I want to build more public transit. And yes, it's not going to happen overnight. But if you don't have the vision to do things, and Brad Sherman thinks he's here, do another 30 years, the same failed policies. If anybody in this room was at a job and they kept failing over and over again, they would have been fired 25 years ago. It is insane. But there is positivity, there's optimism. We can do these things together, but it takes all of us. It takes organizations throughout the district, not just elected officials, nonprofits, community advocates. This is what happens, okay? So thank you, Moran. Good question. Thank you, Doug, for reminding me of the question too.
we are going to move to a different topic, which is homelessness spending versus measurable outcomes. The question, billions have been spent on homelessness with limited results. What is the federal government getting wrong? And what do you do differently to ensure funding leads to measurable reductions? Dory.
What frustrates people is that public spaces no longer feel like they belong to the public. Sidewalks are blocked, parks feel neglected, families and seniors adjust their lives around dysfunction, and meanwhile, the homelessness system often seems to manage the problem, not solve it. Too many services are disconnected from reality. Sometimes that disconnect is basic, sometimes it's more specific. For example, people will refuse shelter because they cannot bring in their dog. And too often, the system has no practical answer for that. That may sound like a small detail to some bureaucrats, but in the real world, it can be the difference between someone coming in or staying outside. Not to mention the safety of dogs who otherwise are living in dangerous and filthy conditions outside. So the longer someone stays on the street, the worse their physical health, mental condition, and odds of recovery become. So this is not about being cruel. It is the opposite. Leaving people outside is not compassion. It is failure. We need urgency. We need public spaces that are usable again, and we need a system that gets people indoors faster with treatment, structure, and real follow-through, a pro-humanity approach. That is better policy, and it is basic respect for everyone. Thank you.
Doc, you are next.
Hi. Definitely in 2024, I was driving Uber to talk to people in the district and all over, and homelessness was the number one issue. I believe that it still is in a way, but it's shared with affordability. I don't know if you've heard of this, but I have the intention of partnering with Covenant House on what are called sleep outs, where in November, that's when they normally do theirs, where people give up basically their home, their house, their bed for a day in order to highlight the homeless crisis that we're all witnessing. We really must treat healthcare and housing both together, not because they're both a basic human right, they are, but also because they're linked to our well-being. Healthcare issues and housing are deeply intertwined, with housing considered a fundamental social determinant of health. Research this year says that where someone lives often predicts their health outcomes as much as medical care itself, which I think is as an indictment on our system. The big betrayal for the benefit of billionaires, as I call it, I will probably repeat on numerous occasions today because I think it is such a criminal mistake to give so much to those who have so much and not to those who need so much. It seems we can consider economical factors into the equation of housing. High housing costs can force people to choose between rent and medicine at certain points, or even whether someone can afford healthy food. I know that some people say that healthcare is not healthcare, it's sick care, and that good food is healthcare. Medical debt that we all incur becomes a cause of housing instability also, and it's tied in the most important things we have to deal with in the future. Thank you.
Anna. You are muted. Okay. All right.
I just want to say it's great to have everyone here because this is the first time I've been in a debate with Dory and Doug. So I think it's really good, and I can't wait till we get all of us on stage and just focus on the issues. Chris, I just wanted to say Brad has taken 1.7 million from NARS, the real estate lobby. So there you go. Listen, homelessness. I think everyone here is deeply troubled by it and wants to treat it with dignity and compassion. I don't think anyone here is any different from that. Los Angeles has 46,000 homeless, about 3,000 to 6,000 in our district. We need accountability. I'm working with HUD, a program that's affiliated with HUD, and another one with La Casa. La Casa has the structure of it means that no one is held accountable. It's divided into 8 factions, and this is the problem. Everything's fragmented. I think in Congress, if I was in Congress, I would bring everything together, and accountability would be one of those key priorities, so that every system part has a method where accountability can be pursued. I think that's really, really important. I just want to talk about how we got to this, because this is really important. Years ago, Newsom brought in a law whereby he offered property owners a tax break, big corporations. If they could not get people into their housing, they would get the equivalent in tax break. So what did the property owners do all around COVID and after COVID? They bumped up the rents because they could leave it empty and get just as many and get a tax break that was equivalent. And they also bumped up the requirements to get into housing. Suddenly, instead of having a 640, which used to be the minimum, suddenly some buildings were asking for 720, 780. We're just not in a situation where there's a lack of housing. There are actually a lot of empty housing units throughout our district and in LA. And we need to start repurposing those, get rid of those laws, any of those laws that benefit the big corporations. I think that's one of the first things we've got to do, is get rid of those laws. We must give homeless people a dignified path to access to get back on a better road, whether it's mental health addiction, treatment. We must make it possible to have the funding to do that. And we must give them a way forward so that they can still get the health care they need, not just for a month or 2 months or 3 months. We must find a way to get them back into the workforce. And if they're not capable of working, we must address completely how we're going to create a pathway so that they can thrive in the way that they deserve to as humans as well. I know a lot of people in our neighborhood, especially in Sherman Oaks, they're worried about safety, as Dory Benami meant, about not being able to walk the dog. All of these are valid concerns. And I think another valid concern that has been expressed to be in this neighborhood is, where are we going to build this low-cost housing? It's not just about building low-cost housing. It's creating a whole life plan for people who are very deserving and very needing and need it. And listen, some people don't have the drug and mental health issues. They've just been caught out by really, really bad laws by the state, right? We need to be able to put a cap on the laws and fit in the federal legislature that can stop states creating runaway laws that are just going to harm the state. I would love it to be left in the state. But if we look at California and the way it's been driven to the ground and the amount of homeless here, this governor needs to be held accountable. And he hasn't been. And there has to be a mechanics to hold governors accountable in some way. Someone mentioned the Olympics as well. Well, that's another matter. But Doug, just so you know, I actually got on the ballot where you can get a ticket for like $28 or $30. Guess where it is? Nashville. So Wasserman is running this, the Olympics out of LA, but half of the events are actually not going to happen in LA. And again, I think that comes down to lack of accountability. So I will get back to my time is up. I can see Marion saying my time is up.
Thank you. Christopher.
Ron, can you repeat the question again so I know what we're talking about?
So this is about homelessness spending
Got it.
versus measurable outcomes.
Got it. Okay.
And the question is, billions have been spent on homelessness with limited results. What is the federal government getting wrong? And what would you do differently to ensure funding leads to measurable reductions?
Thank you, Miran. Appreciate that. Get me right back on track here. So I think the main thing is we're going back to Brad. That's who we're talking about here today. And Brad has been absent with this particular issue. He is not present. First of all, as a congressman, congresswoman, as a representative for the 32nd district, it is imperative that you work with your peers. County, LA County is a big one. The state of California, the city of Los Angeles. Brad Sherman claims seniority, yet he is unable to meet any of these moments to actually work on solving the problems that we face in our district. There is no reason why every year it appears to keep going up with people who are unhoused living on the streets. We have different situations. Not one situation is the same with somebody who is unhoused. There are people who have mental illness. There are people who have drug abuse that can lead to mental illness. There are people who are literally, they've lost their jobs. They have families. They're studying in colleges and they're living in an RV and they have a family. There are multitude stories of people who are stuck in this. And so from a federal standpoint, we have to actually work with city, state, county to get these things done. There is a lot of mismanagement. There has to be accountability. There has to be oversight. We talk about funds, how much money is being spent through different government agencies. And yes, you see empty buildings, you see empty housing, and there never seems to be a way to solve this. This can be solved, but as a congressperson, I will be here actually doing these things. I'm not moving to Washington, D.C. It's about actually living here, working here, and solving the problem. And I think Dory mentioned it. The amount of unhoused people who have animals, who have pets. There is no reason why Brad Sherman can't actually help solve these problems. But if you're used to doing nothing and expecting things to change for the people in this district, well, then nothing's going to change. And so for me, it's about actually meeting people where they are. But more importantly, just, our mental health, expanding our mental health addiction services, but not just expanding it. There has to be a measurable outcome. If we're not measuring actual progress, then how do we know we're moving forward in the right direction? If we start to see progress being made and we're measuring that, let's say every quarter, and that particular case study, then let's move that case study to different parts of the district and then expand outside the district. We all love California. I do. I really love California. This is my state and I'm proud of it. And so when I see videos that just perpetuate this myth that it is a hellhole, I don't agree with that. There's a lot of positive things that are happening in our state, and we have to have accountability, oversight. We have to audit these programs, and then we can move forward, measuring KPIs, indicators, metrics, versus just kind of 6-7 it. I don't know if that joke works here, but it's about doing your job. And thanks, Josh, and being present.
Thank you, Christopher. Marina?
Yes, thanks. So having spoken to social workers and a number of people who work directly in this space, permanent supportive housing is the answer to getting people off the street permanently and giving them that dignity to actually live housed and actually have the mental space to pursue their treatment plans. If we think about just expanding housing, the Senate actually passed in March the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, and that had broad bipartisan support. It's incredible. It's a lot of what folks have been talking about here. It's about building a lot more units. It's about restricting how much of the housing corporate buyers can actually get access to. It's about putting limits on the funding if milestones are not met. So it actually brings together a lot of what we've been discussing of this kind of accountability and enforceability of an actual law. So that's something I would support in the House. It's amazing that it's a huge bill that kind of has gone under the radar with all the chaos of recent events. So another issue that I think doesn't quite come up in the 21st Century Road to Housing Act and a lot of what we discuss is that almost 96% of all of the residential lots in California are actually zoned for single family. And that stands against our ability to build denser housing, to build public housing, to actually meet the challenges of climate change and to lower costs for families where 20 to 30% of budgets for the poorest families, almost at least 30% of the budget can be transportation costs. And just think about those 2 hours in traffic or more that you're away from your family, that you're worrying about your auto insurance or getting into an accident. And that kind of strain, the mental strain over time is really horrendous. And so being able to access public transit near where you live is something I don't think we've discussed enough. And it's a big part of what we'd want to meet the challenges of climate change, to actually meet the challenges of our housing stock, and to get people off the streets and make the space a lot more affordable. We can look at existing legislation that allows for building ADUs, and that's what a lot of folks are doing to be able to continue living near their parents, and support their parents as they get older. So we need to consider these kind of multi-family housing units and what are actually the issues in place preventing people from accessing these things. And as Congresswoman, I would work to actually facilitate the enforcement of these laws and their availability and their accessibility for folks in our district. Thanks.
Now let's go to immigration enforcement and reform.
I didn't get a chance to speak.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, real quick. I have this plan. It's called the Safe Communities and Recovery Plan. It's a pragmatic federal strategy to reduce dangerous street homelessness, expand treatment capacity, and restore public safety back to the streets of Los Angeles. Because in my opinion, this is not just a housing shortage, it is a mass systems failure. And there are more people who are living outside in Los Angeles than anywhere else. And it's because there's housing in other places and there are shelters for people in places like New York or in Boston, but not here. So when you talk to people, social workers, you talk to firefighters, you talk to police officers, this homelessness crisis and mental health crisis, it's draining every aspect of our society. It's making it so that police officers, all that they respond to are homelessness and mental health crises. Firefighters, all that they're responding to are fires created by people who are just trying to stay alive outside. And our public health systems, emergency rooms are full of people who need help as a result of this mental health crisis that nobody is addressing. This may not be an issue specific to addiction or substance abuse, but it is 100% an issue that is specific to the mental health crisis that is affecting everybody here. If you do not have a mental health crisis when you start living outside on the streets, you certainly have one after you're living outside for a very long time. And what we need to do is we need to find a model that works, right? And so the way that we do this, it's very, very simple. We set up massive, what I say is compassion through structure, right? And what we do is we create large campus recovery facilities where encampments are. And we dedicate these where we have hospital system investment. We have we have all sorts of social workers, healthcare providers who are working in these places, job training, and that we really focus our federal efforts on reducing outdoor homelessness. And how do we pay for this? I think that we pay for this in all sorts of ways. But the main way that I would pay for this is by taxing vacant houses, right? There are a tremendous amount of vacant houses in this district. They're all over. There are like 5 or 6 right by where I live. And if you talk to people who are renting these houses or people who own these houses, what is the main problem that they have in Los Angeles? It is the homelessness and mental health care crisis. People, even those who are renters, real estate worker, like people who work in the real estate business, they would be interested in something like this because it would make it so that people would want to buy houses, would want to rent houses. There are so many, as people have pointed out, vacant properties where we could build facilities, but we have to be building these facilities where these homeless people are, because there's a reason they're there. Census studies showed that people who are living outside, their last address was in California. And oftentimes people are living near where their family members live. I'm a homelessness liaison. I'm out there all the time. I was there for the homelessness count. And you see, again, a tremendous amount of waste, but you see a tremendous amount of suffering for people who do not want to live inside, who want to go back with their families. So let's give them an opportunity by number one, focusing on these facilities. And number two, we have to enforce this. People have to go inside. Again, I'm not talking about it sounds tough, but we have to be tough right now, right? Like, again, I'm in AA. I don't want to go to AA meetings. I hate that I have to go, but I have to go. I hate that my alarm goes off and it tells me to call my sponsor at 2 p.m., but I have to call him because what that does is it centers me and it makes it so that I can be a healthy, productive individual in society. And we have to hold everybody to the same standards that we hold ourselves. Thank you.
Perfect. Now we are going to move to immigration enforcement and reform priorities. This has been a very painful and a disaster journey to everyone. The question is, immigration remains deeply divided. What specific policies would you support to balance broader enforcement and legal reform? And what policies would you oppose even within your own party? Anna.
Thank you. As a first-generation immigrant, I join 45%, 40% of the rest of our community in our district, many of whom are Iranian, Persian, many of whom are Asian, many of whom are Indian, many of whom are Latina and Hispanic, and many of whom come from many other cultures around the world. It's a big deal to move country. It doesn't matter how you move country at one level, it's a big deal to move country. Our immigration system is a mess. And I think we have to have compassion first for everyone who's done it illegally and legally. We are a nation of immigrants. It cannot be ignored that millions have done it legally. But it also cannot be ignored that there have been an appalling lack of visas available for people from certain countries, and appalling lack of education into Latina and Hispanic communities about what visas may be available for them. The BASARA Act years ago was got rid of, but at the time, aside from its short failings, it provided an ability for people to immigrate here from Latin America and actually get work on farms legally and build families and generation of families here. We need to do away in America with some of the visas that are no longer relevant to our moment. I know there's been outcry about the H-1B visa, but I can name several other visas that are really not relevant or of a priority to America right now. And I came in first on, of course, visas for film and television. But I hate to say it, but the film industry is in a huge crisis, 259,000 union members, 60% of whom are unemployed. Do we really need to bring in more film and television workers when there's not enough work here for those who are here? It's tough to say, but it's true. So instead, we can be creating visas for hospitality workers, nurses, and a whole lot of service workers that really do need visas, and America really, really does need right now. We have to create jobs and visas that meet the moment of America today. Yes, we have to secure our borders. We don't want criminals here. And I don't mind getting rid of violent criminals. But at the same process, everyone is entitled to due process. Every country in the world has immigration laws, but you can't criminalize people without them going through the due process. And America has very odd laws around refugee status. Like, you can come in as a refugee without claiming it in advance. You can claim that refugee status when you're here. Therefore, you must have due diligence and a fair process as soon as people get into this country illegally, right? Just as people who come in legally. I had my visa sorted before I came here. We must do that with absolutely everyone, and we must have due process for everyone who's here. And this is such a sensitive, sensitive, sensitive topic right now. And I really believe that as a congresswoman, I know my way through this. I know the visas that are there. I know their short failings. I know their strengths. And I just want to be really clear. This affects everyone. I'm walking around with my passport every day, even though I'm a citizen. And I'm not alone. I have friends around the world who live here, who are first generation immigrants with accents, who are all struggling with what's going on at the moment. This affects everyone. And we can't just look at one group of people or one group of people and say, well, that's all that this involves. It doesn't. It involves everyone. We need to get rid of ICE in its current form. It is not working. I would actually just empty it all out probably and retrain and bring in more people and have full accountability at the moment. I think if we get rid of it completely in terms of its title, we're going to leave a lot of people languishing in horrible detention centers for the next 2 years. I think we need to rebuild what we've got. And for goodness sake, I hope it's under a new president who can move forward with compassion and dignity for everyone instead of this appalling, there are people languishing for over a year in those centers. And I don't think there's not a single person who wants to go and not break them out. It's appalling, and we must do better. And by the way, I'm the only candidate who's spoken to Tom Holman about this in various gaggles, and I've been really strong about conditions in those centers. And I will continue to fight on that, because this just hits right to the heart of America. It's a very, very, very sensitive, important debate for America.
Thank you. Chris.
Thank you, Anna. If you see Tom, tell him my city's a crook, okay? You can say that. You know, what ICE has been doing, well, it didn't just happen during Trump's administration, it happened prior to that as well. ICE does have to be abolished. That's where I stand on that. There's no reforming ICE whatsoever. There's no giving ICE agents better training. The people ICE have been hired, a lot of them are white supremacists. A lot of them are people who were in the January 6th riots, and those people are criminals. And we saw what happened in Minnesota. We've seen what's happened in our 32nd district with Keith Porter Jr., other people who have been killed by ICE, and there's no accountability. Brad Sherman represents our district. Every day, ICE is here. They're snatching people up, kidnapping people in PetSmart parking lots. They were doing it at Home Depot for many, many months. They're using illegal license plates that are not even registered to even do their federal investigations. So for Brad Sherman, somebody who claims to have seniority, but is not actually fighting for the people in our district. And you can't go up to people. It is unconstitutional to put a gun in their face, to ask them to show their identification. This is what happened during Nazi Germany. It is the same thing. Brad Sherman has an obligation, and he is not meeting the moment. We say that term, meeting the moment. There's a wonderful family in Studio City, and they didn't want anybody to continue to talk about the story and, in terms of who they are because of pushback from their lawyers. But when you have people who've lived here for 30, 40, 50 years, and when the wife, the partner, passes her citizenship test, is told to go to the immigration office for her immigration ceremony, and it's all ruse. She's taken, put into a private prison, and it's still there. I shouldn't have to make videos about it and post it on my social media for Brad Sherman to get off his butt and actually do his job and actually fight for his constituents. It's disgusting. That is literally your job. Every single person here has multiple jobs that they do, not including their family. Congressman Brad Sherman has let down this district. With ICE, I am the son of an immigrant. My wife is a refugee. She's also an immigrant. I have many friends. Almost all of my friends are immigrants. So we have to abolish ICE. People like Tom Holman, He is already under investigation, I think, for corruption. Christy Nome, remember her? All these people have stolen millions of dollars from working people for their own grift, for their own vanity. You doing a $200 million commercial for immigration customs enforcement? These people have to be held accountable, and it starts by making a system that's easy for immigrants to come here, that is safe, that is humane. Having ICE stationed in front of a refugee child center where they have to go on lockdown. This is not our America. And Brad Sherman is responsible for not speaking up. When you vote for legislation that includes ICE bills in there, you are not an ally for the 32nd District. You are not.
Thank you, Chris. Josh.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is a critical issue. My grandfather was an immigrant to this country. My intern is an immigrant to this country. She came here when she was 11 years old, from Guatemala. And my wife was born in Sweden. Both of my children have dual citizenship here and in Sweden. I'm the only one without dual citizenship. So I'm the odd man out here. We have to abolish ICE in full stop. What's happening on the streets here and in this country is a catastrophe. And it is a paramilitary force that is ripping people out of cars, that is not trained, and it has to be abolished, full stop, 100%. It has to be removed. We also, have to come up with a system that works, right? Because an open border policy is not something that I'm in favor of either, right? I think that there is just like an enormous amount of cruelty that is taking place, and we can see it everywhere that we go. And our congressman, I think, is is doing a terrible job at highlighting what is happening in his district. The only time that I've ever seen Brad Sherman outside of a detention facility was in his advertisement during HBO Go, where he was standing in front of it, and that ad was paid for by us, the taxpayers. We can't constantly be electing lawyers who went to Harvard and expecting that those people are going to do better for us or our district. We have to be electing people who have skin in the game, who are contributors, who are honest, and who are feeling the impact, especially when all these systems are overwhelmed. We need to think about this in a modern way. And I think that the main question that we should be thinking about when we talk to people is, what is your dream, right? What is your dream, right? Like, if we ask people who are coming into this country, what are your dreams here? I think that we'll do a lot better than detaining people. We have huge detention facilities where people are being taken to and they're being left to die. And those places, they go against everything that we believe in, that I believe in here in America. California is built on the American dream. So is the United States. My grandfather was from Brooklyn, and he lived the American dream. He bought a house in Queens, and he bought fine china on layaway that this woman had like a Ponzi scheme, right? She was basically giving away china, and he had it made. We have to ask people, what are their dreams? Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Marina.